Hello from me, Lazarus. We continue with the next lesson of the course by HTML. We are currently on Chapter 11, Units of Measurement in HTML and CSS. We open the PDF file. In HTML and CSS about a dozen units are mainly used to size the elements on the page. In fact, after creating CSS, units of measurement should already be specified there, but in this case I will not present them in the CSS section, because in almost every subject, more or less, we will have contact with them. That's why I prefer it to introduce them now. Units of measurement can be divided into two main types: absolute and relative. We start with the absolutes. As you might guess from the name, these are units that have exactly certain physical size and should to be portrayed equally to all devices and not depend on the size of the screen. In this case I add should, because in practical work the browser cannot always calculate exactly the physical size of the display, and sometimes in the rendering of these units differences are obtained. The following are considered absolute units: centimeter, millimeter, inch, point, and pica. I have described it here, each one, what it is. Absolute units are mainly used in output information to print. Here is an example in which we will see all units by making them show the same width of 127 millimeters. The code in the editor is as follows: we just create 5 paragraphs and we assign them different color, and in a different way we set with each of these units. What we will see in this example, I won't open it now in the browser. Here we will only look at the PDF file. In this case clear enough can be seen. This is the result. We continue with relative units, starting with the pixels, because although in general the pixels are guided relative units, many authors tend to attribute them more to the absolute units. They are also given on the website of W3 Schools, for example, or some other authors define them as something in between the two categories. I will put them conditionally among the absolute, but I will introduce them here together with the relative units. So px, from English, pixel, represents a point on the computer screen, the dimensions of which depend on the technical characteristics on the output device and from the set resolution. Pixels are the most commonly used units to set dimensions. To display the pixel ratio to the other absolute units on my monitor, I will include the pixels to the previous example, adding this one. OK, and here it is, we will see them. The last paragraph is about them. When setting the pixels, it is good to use only integers because they are the smallest dot of the screen and gone, meaning to divide into parts. That is, even if you write such a number, the browser will round them. Next are the percentages. A percentage is a unit of measurement, which has nothing to do with the element size or to its font size. It is calculated against the parent element. But there are exceptions to some of the properties. We will start a new instance already with relative elements, as we will leave the pixels from the previous example, and we will add paragraph with percentages. The code in it is as follows. In this case, this percentage is from body element as parent element, and the result will be the following. Now we see that their widths are equal, when such is the percentage. But in order to show why pixels count for absolute units and how do percentages work, I will convert this example as follows. I will put these to the paragraph in a single div element, here it is, which I will set a width of 80% and color to distinguish it. And we will see if the widths will change of the paragraphs. Here is the full code, that is, the first two are the same, and the result in the browser will be as follows. We see that the paragraph that was 480 px he has left so much, and we see the div container, which is 80% of body, this is the remaining 20%, and we see that the paragraph which was 59.7% has become smaller. Why has he become smaller? Because already its parent element, it's not a body, it's a div, and we assigned it to this div with 80%, and therefore the paragraph has also shrunk by 20%. Percentages are a very important unit of measurement. They are used in cases where we want to create a responsive or responsive design, in which the dimensions of the elements are shown in different size, but also keep their ratio, so that your site can be seen well on both smaller and larger screens. So we'll talk more in the CSS chapters. And now we'll look at 4 relative units of measurement, related to text size. These are m, rem, x, ch. One m is equal to the size of the currently used font for the given element. The default text size in browsers is 16 px, therefore, by default, if not otherwise specified, 1 m equals 16 px. Another characteristic is that m inherits the font of its parent element. This is generally good, but in some situations where we have nested elements on multiple levels, can lead to unexpected problems, errors, and even strange results. To avoid this, in CSS3 the unit is entered rem. Her name comes from root m, that is, a root, that is, it is already we equate to font size, not to the parent of the font of the root HTML element. That is, inheritance does not apply here. And with many nested levels, the rem remains the same. The unit x is similar to m, but is the size of the lowercase letter x of English. Not used often. The unit ch is similar to x, but the magnitude of font is equal to the height of the number 0. It was introduced in CSS3, but is hardly used, so far. Here is an example with these units. Here is the code in the editor. You see the font is different and we set each unit to be 2. As we see m and rem in this case, they are the same size, and ch is greater than x. In CSS3 there are introduced 4 new units. In fact, even now there are more, but we will pay attention to these 4, related to the viewport property, for the site view in the browser, which enable scaling of elements. They are used for screens with different sizes, for example for tablets or telephones. These units are VW, VH, Vmin, and Vmax. VW, from English viewport width. 1 VW is equal to 1% of the width of the visible area on the browser window. Allows scaling the dimensions of the element depending on the width of the visible area. VH, from English viewport height, is similar to VW but is for the height. As 1 VH is equal to 1% of the height of the visible area. Vmin, 1 Vmin is equal to 1% of the minimum value of the width or height of the viewable area. That is, it does not allow to reduce more. Vmax, 1 Vmax is equal to 1% of the maximum value of the width or height of the viewable area. That is, it does not allow them to increase more. Here is an example similar to the previous one, but with these units of measurement, the code will be as follows, and the result in the browser is, pixels can also be set as fractional numbers, but that doesn't make sense because the browser will round them. That's all for this tutorial. Best regards.